What many of these land grabbers are selling are lands that have already been bought 20, 30, 50 years ago. With the development of a co-Atlantic city, waterfront lands have become quite very scarce. And that was what made the Makoko issue to get to the turning point it got to in December and January this year. The last 2023 elections had the worst ever voters' participation in this country. He's actually a president of the minority for the minority. The ruling elites of this country are living on borrowed times. They don't know it. Don't you know this? How long do you think a ruling elite, possibly less than 1 million population, can continue to do the rest of the 229 million down? The police and the army that is undergirding this system, they are one of the worst paid, worst remunerated in among the workers or civil servants in this country. To be a policeman or to be a soldier is to commit your life to nothing during a political season. I was arrested, taken to court, and then thrown into prison. Who owns the oil blocks? It's not the Nigerian people. It is corporations and a few Nigerian politicians. These are the wealth of the country. If government is not going to use our resources to take care of us, then perhaps there should be no government at all. No matter where you are and want to live, they kidnap your family member here in Nigeria, and they are trying to raise 75 million naira to free that person. You are going to be the first person to call from Canada.
This episode is sponsored by BO Foundation for Inclusive Media, and the message is this: gender equality and social inclusion is not for a specific group of people. It is for everyone. Leave no one behind in all your programming and engagement.
Hello, people of Lagos, Nigeria, and the entire world. Welcome to another amazing episode of Talk the Street podcast. Today, we're having another interesting conversation. One for you guys not to miss out. From the start to the end, it's going to be enlightening. And of course, you know how the vibe is. Real people, real talk. And as usual, I'm never alone here. Never alone on Talk the Street. I have my wonderful host here. My partner, person of Kimmy. Give it up, guys.
Wait, why did you say partner like that? Don't try to put out ideas.
No. They understand.
Hello,
they
world.
Understand.
I'm single. I'm not searching. I'm not his partner.
Okay. However you want to put it. But fine. We're here with Kimmy and the conversation is about to get started.
Hey guys, this is Kimmy K. Welcome to the Talk District podcast, where we talk to real people. We have real conversations.
Real conversations, real vibe, real talk, real people. 100%.
And I want to say that this was going to be a serious conversations, but we're always having serious conversations.
Is it going to be serious?
On this podcast.
It's going to be serious.
It's going to be a very serious. It's going to be a very serious
explosive
conversation because we have to talk about us and the future of this nation, and we're not alone, to discuss something as important and sensitive as politics. We have a fantastic guest. I would even say a celebrity guest in the house.
A celebrity guest. When it comes to activism in the country, he is like everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is in person of Hassan, popularly known as Soweto. Put your hands together now. So in any conversation regarding activism, Soweto is there. So I'm just going to keep it at Soweto. That works, right?
Yeah, it works.
I'm going to keep it at Soweto. Soweto is there. Anything that has to do with the welfare of the people, things being done right, justice, fairness, and everything that has to work around government, the people, democracy, a sane society in quote now. He's always at the helm of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is no other person, like I said, than Soweto, and we're about to get into the conversation. When and after he introduces himself, we're going to get into the conversation and tell you what the topic is. So, over to you.
Thank
Mr.
you very much for
Soweto.
joining us. You're a bit stylish. The glasses, the hair, the tats.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just trying to be myself, despite also being an activist and a revolutionary. But let me start by saying, first and foremost, that it's my pleasure to be here and to have this conversation with these two very beautiful people. My name is Soweto, although recently now people call me Hassan Soweto, which really, makes my ear prick because for a lot of years I've been simply known as Soweto. That's all I'm known as. I'm an activist, as you have said. A socialist. I'm a revolutionary. And why do I combine these three?
Yeah.
It is because I'm not just somebody who criticizes. I'm also someone who feels that we can fix this. And I think that we have a blueprint about how Nigeria can work. So that is who I am. But also, I'm also a freelance journalist, which means that I also do a bit of this, although in the written form. That's my income generating profession.
Okay, yeah.
Every other thing apart from that is about volunteering to make society better. And I've been doing this for a long time. I started right from the age of 17, 18. I got admission to Obafemi University at the age of 16.
Of course.
And then right from my second year, I became a full-fledged activist. So in that sense, I've been an activist now for 20 years.
Wow.
20.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so
20.
let's start by asking you this question. What does it mean to be an activist in today's Nigeria?
To put it very, very starkly, it means you have to be prepared to die. Wow. And why do I put it that way? It's because this is the 26th year of civil rule in Nigeria, if I'm right.
Yeah.
And Nigeria is more or less back to full-fledged, despotism and dictatorship. The only thing is that you don't have military men in power. But in terms of the erosion of civic rights, the shrinking of civic space, the criminalization of dissent, of freedom of expression, we are more or less back to the dark era of military jackboot authoritarianism. And my experience just recently with the protests against demolition in Lagos State, which I'm still not fully recovered from. I still have a broken back.
Wow.
It's clearly, symbolic of that if you want to fight for a better and sane society, if you want to even pick holes at government policies, then you must be prepared for consequences that are coming for you. And I'm not the only person who symbolizes that. There's Omoyele Sowore. There's Daddy Yatta, who's been missing for 7 years now. There are a whole lot of young people in this country, even TikTokers and co, who are paying all kinds of prices because they dare to speak out. That is what it means to be an activist today in Nigeria.
Wow, that's a lot.
And paying that consequence, knowing that if you speak up, you could lose your lives, does that deter people from, especially young people now, does that deter them from speaking up or putting themselves out there to say, our country shouldn't go like this?
It does. Obviously it does. I've been doing this for 20 years, as I said.
Yeah.
And I can count possibly in thousands the number of people that I've met on the journey who are no more part of activism today, not because they don't believe that our voices can, make change happen, but because they've gotten to a point where they are not able to continue to pay the price. Because now they are family men and women. Now they've got a lot of responsibilities. They've got kids. So in that sense, the price is a bit too high from that point of view. And I've got a whole lot of people who even had their dreams cut short almost as soon as they spoke out. And from that point of view, their life derailed. And there are also a whole lot of people who have died. We remember NSAS, those who were killed. Yeah. So in that sense, it is true. It deters people because it makes you question. It makes you ask yourself some questions so that there's the truth now. You want to speak the truth. But then you also have to ask yourself whether you are prepared for the consequences that comes. Because when the consequences comes, it's not funny at all. And it's a private battle that people fight. People know that when we go out for protest, you see us on television granting interviews like this. But the private consequences of this are always private. I go for physiotherapy now once every week. That's a private battle.
Yeah.
No one is there
And
to
I know
face
so,
that
and I
battle
met
with you.
someone when I was in the university, who was shot during the anti-military struggle in Nigeria in 1993, and because of that, one of his leg got bad. That was he amputated? I'm not sure, but he was on crutches. He's still on crutches up to now. That was a young person who, even as at that time, was carrying the injury, the disability that speaking up actually, brought to him. So yes, it deters people. It does.
And that's scary
Yeah,
That's
it
very
is.
scary.
for us and for our future.
Yes, it is.
Because what do we tell the generation yet to come?
Yeah, it does.
And so let me ask you this. What exactly do you think is the mindset of Nigerian youth towards politics in this climate? Knowing what you know, seeing what you've seen, seeing the people you've interacted with, the average Nigerian youth, what's their mindset like?
I think that beyond the noise on social media, on the traditional media, the majority of young people in this country, their attitude to politics is a bit difficult to describe. It's complex. It's been described by many political scientists and others as indifference, as political apathy. But I have long said that it is not. It is that silence of the majority that, there's a silence that is quite very noisy. Like when a lion or a goat moves backward just before it springs forward with vengeance. That is what I think is happening with the country's youth today. They completely see that what is called democracy right now is a fraud.
Yeah.
Voting is a fraud. Joining what are called political parties today is just a waste of time. So, in that sense, you think that when you don't see them on election day, it means they are pathetic. When you don't see them joining politics or campaigning for one candidate or the other, you think they are indifferent. But no, they are not. They do understand that politics determines their life, it determines their future. They do know that it's important to participate, but what they cannot do, like maybe the older generations who do, which is you join them, you can't beat them or something like that.
Yeah.
That is what young people cannot do. So young people are saying we can't be part of this. But when those young people see something that represents the change they want, when they see either a political party or a candidate or somebody who captures what they imagine the country that work should be, then we are going to see the vengeance of that demographic politically. And we've seen the signs in some of the previous elections that we have had. We've seen sparks of it. But these are just sparks. But a deluge is coming, a flood is coming, a mass uprising is coming. How that mass uprising of young people, how it will manifest, whether it will manifest electorally, in terms of, coming behind the candidate and the party and saying that this is our party. If you rig, then the country will burn. If you undermine this mandate, something would happen. Either that, or it manifests in what we have seen in some other parts of the world today. Whether you are talking about Kenya or you are talking about Tunisia, you're talking about Egypt. In terms of people saying, no, fuck it. It is not elections, the ballot box is not the way. We are going to do what we call a people's democracy, which is that the will of the people, must prevail at all times without waiting for the next 1 year, the next 4 years. We are going to change our government today, and we must do it. Well, and that's what a revolution is called. So in that sense, that's why I said it is the mood of the people, the attitude of young people is not. It's not indifferent. It's not apathy. It is like that silence before it spring. And statistically, this is proven. If you look at elections since 2019 in this country, just go back to your record. You are going to see that the level of participation has been declining. The last 2023 elections had the worst ever voters' participation in this country. less than 30% of people, of registered voters, actually participated in the election. And that's why the current president of this country is actually a president who had the lowest vote ever since 1979. He's actually a president of the minority and for the minority. Because those who voted, even those who participated in that election were not up to 50 million. 90 million people registered in 2022 general elections. Those who voted were less than 50 or 55 million. Those who actually voted for Tinubu were less than 30 million. And in a country of 230 million people. So those are statistics that shows the coming revolution. Because it means that the current structure of the leadership, the current electoral system, the current facade of democracy doesn't coincide with the expectations and the imaginations of young people. So there's a feeling that we can't engage here because it's dirty. It's not going to produce any result. But that doesn't mean that the youth are not ready to change the country when the time comes.
Well said, Soweto. So based on the records you just highlighted now, record of having a very low number of participants in an electoral process, that is screaming lack of interest from the youth in the country, not being interested. And we also have the Japa
syndrome
going on and on. It means people are kind of, you say it is leading us to a revolution, but some people I see it as it is leading us to letting the power reside where it is and having them just do whatever they want, the way they want to do it. Because there's something, the question I really want to ask now is, what do you think about the supposed manipulation of the media to control the youth from being too concerned about what is going on in government?
Well, I mean, when you say manipulation of the media, now I'm a bit, confused. Which media now? Because
okay,
you know
social media, basically. Television stations, radio stations, news.
I mean, because, what we have also had in the past few years now is that information now has become decentralized, democratized. So that, yes, there are manipulations going on, but there are also counters to all of these things going on. I mean, you've had all kinds of, media organizations, even civic groups, running programs to track disinformation. I don't know what it's called again, to track disinformation and really, what is the word now, to ensure that any story put out that are incorrect are dissembled and the errors put out. So there's a lot going on. So I don't really think that even if there's these manipulations going on, that they're actually working at preventing young people or making them not want to participate in politics or all of that. But what I see in all of this, to be clear with you, is that, young people, there is a lot of information flying around, obviously. And young people are picking what they think is correct or not correct. But in all of this, there is the anger that is really just there, barely on the surface, of people feeling that something got to change. The Jackpot syndrome is an expression of that, because why many people describe Jackpot syndrome as an escape, that was true only when that phenomenon started. But what you have also seen the last few years is that when people get over there and they begin to settle down, they begin to realize that the reality back at home is not often far from them. Because no matter where you are in the world today, if they kidnap your family member here in Nigeria and they are trying to raise 75 million naira to free that person, you are going to be the first person they will call from Canada or from wherever you are. So I've also seen people, many Nigerians abroad, also getting organized. A few years ago, 2021, 2022, in both years, I did a tour of the UK, political tour of the UK, speaking at public symposiums organized by, Nigerians in diaspora and all of that. And the aim of that was to organize the diaspora. And that's why, right from the embargo governance struggle in August 2024, you would have seen that all of the protests that we had afterwards to free those who were arrested, during the embargo governance protests, all of the protests and activities we had, they were not just organized here in Nigeria. Once we declared a day of action, coinciding with the court cases of those people, you are also going to have actions taking place, at least in 5 capitals across the world. Nigerians going to Nigerian embassies and consulates to carry placards to say that Nigerian government must free activists in Nigeria. So in that sense, you have and I know that many political parties as well, including APC and co, now have diaspora, membership, that organizes, that meets regularly, and also at in terms of raising funds, not just APC, even AAC has it. Many political parties have this. So where I'm going there for is that the circle, everything is circling back eventually. And now with the rise of nationalism across the world, now it's getting more difficult now to relocate, with what Trump is doing and all of that.
Yeah.
The door is closing. So that eventually, the realization is going to dawn on everyone. Something that has already started anyway, that we got to fight for what is ours to make the country better. And how we do it in terms of cleaning up the electoral system to make it, more transparent and for more people to want to participate in it. Those are the kind of issues that we have to start talking about. But also, the question of even diaspora voting, it also becomes very, very important. And that's why the current criminal decision taken by National Assembly, is something that anybody who is interested in genuine democracy in this country, must not see as, something to just let go by, because it's clearly an attempt to tighten the noose around, that path towards political power, to make it very, very impossible, for candidates and political parties that represent the will of the people to be able to emerge. That is why they don't want, the transmission of results, the real-time transmission of results, because once you win that position, that demand for election to be transmitted electronically in real time, then, it becomes easy in the next time when, there is amendment of the electoral law, for civic groups to be able to push for electronic voting, which obviously would mean that anywhere you are, once you are in Nigeria, any part of the world you are, you should be able to participate in the electoral process. And that is what they fear. Because one interesting thing about the Japa syndrome is that it's also radicalizing Nigerians. Because you are here in this country and they tell you that this is how a country should be. A country where you have nothing. Government provides nothing for you. Then suddenly people get to the UK, for instance, they see the NHS, which is still a public funded national health service.
Yeah.
And then they ask themselves, so why is it that the IMF, the World Bank, all these international institutions that come from these countries, why is it that they come to Nigeria to tell our ruling elite to do the entire opposite of what they are doing in their own country? And that has a radicalizing effect on a lot of Nigerians. And that's why I said everything is circling back again, whether in terms of the door closing on the Japa, and also in terms of those who have Japa, thinking that they are escaping the problem of the country, realizing that they have not escaped it, or getting acquainted with information and ideas that makes them to realize that no, we've got to make our whole country better. That is the only way, to be able to guarantee our own existence.
Wow. So from everything you explained now, there is a lot of motivation and a call for awareness. I believe everyone listening at this time would sense a little bit of hope from the way you expressed everything. There's hope in it. I mean, we've had this conversation similar to this before, and it was more of thinking, what's the way out? But hearing from you now, being a youth, it's you're sparking and igniting hope.
The ruling elites of this country are living on borrowed times. They don't know it. Don't you know this? In fact, medically, before, and I don't want to sound, what is the word? There's a word, English word for it, But what I want to say is that medically, they say that before somebody dies, you get a spark of energy. It's also the same for systems, for leadership. Leadership systems that are already gone in terms of their virality and co. Those managing them, they begin to have a spark of energy just at the point when the death knell is about to ring. That was the same thing with PDP before the PDP left the stage after 16 years of ruling this country.
Yeah.
So, and that is also what is happening with Trump in the US and all of that. There's this sudden spark of energy, and people who don't understand can think that, these people cannot be defeated. And that is the motivation that we have as activists. Otherwise, why do we put ourselves on the line every time? It is because we know that there are certain things that are quite logical. It is that, and one of which is this. In a country of 230 million, how long do you think a ruling elite, possibly less than 1 million of that population, can continue to hold the rest of the 229 million down?
That's a valid one.
How long do you think? And when you look at the whole long march of civil rule, this is the longest running civil rule in this country since the existence of Nigeria. Nigeria has never had, I don't call it democratic, I call it civil, because there's only democratic about it. Nigeria has never had a civilian rule unbroken for this long, 26 years.
Yeah, 26 years.
But when you look at the whole arc of it, what do you see? You see at the beginning, you see promise. And then in the middle, you see disappointment. And now what do you see? And then everything that they claim would happen in terms of progress, whether economically, whether socially, whether in terms of democratic rights, everything is turning into the opposite. The ruling elite are stealing Nigeria's money as if, the world is going to come to an end tomorrow. And every other thing they have created to checkmate all of these things. When EFCC came on board a few years ago, under Obasanjo, and ICPC, you would think that corruption was going to die within the next 2 years. But right now, people are stealing with frenzy, and they are spending the money right here in Nigeria.
In our faces.
In our faces. And nobody is saying anything. So that in that sense, there's hardly any new thing that the ruling elite wants to use to sustain their system for the next foreseeable period. What is left for them? I always tell people this.
Yeah.
What is allowing things, what is giving them this sense of, that they can continue to reign is our own inability as the oppressed, young people, the working class and co, to develop the kind of organizations and the unity and the program that can take our struggle forward. We are still working in silos, Groups are doing their own in different ways.
Yeah.
Imagine if all of us can unite and then we develop a clear program that, coincides with the kind of society, the kind of Nigeria we want to build. And we also develop a roadmap of tactics and strategies to achieve that. And we begin to push forward, raising the resources, mobilizing. This wall of Jericho would fall. It is a wall of Jericho, and it is feeble. It is very feeble. The police and the army that is undergirding this system, they are one of the worst paid, worst remunerated in among the workers or civil servants in this country. To be a policeman or to be a soldier is to commit your life to nothing. A thankless job where you end up with, life-threatening disability or even death, and your families are abandoned. So in that sense, it means that even the structures of repression that they also use to defend and protect themselves, they are not even reliable on the long run. So from that point of view, it means that regardless of, depending on which strategies we choose, the Nigerian youth and the working class have an advantage, have an opportunity because of our numbers and because of every other thing that is working for us to be able to come together and bring this world down. So it is only because we have not done that. That is what is keeping this system in existence.
Okay.
If we are able to get that done, they will be on the road. I can assure you.
Yeah, looks like
Okay.
it. Now, I have to... Okay,
No,
go on, Kimmy.
I really want to piggyback on what you said about us having certain factors to our advantage. But what about the factors that clearly put us at a disadvantage? Because you talk about unity, and it's important for us to unite. But then you see some stumbling blocks, aka tribe, aka religion.
Yeah.
How can we get past these blocks? Because the 2027 elections are really just by the corner. And we have responsibilities and we have duties as young people, the working class. But how do we get past these obstacles?
I mean, it's an obstacle that is not of our making. It's an obstacle deposited in our life by, foreign forces. Don't forget, colonization produced all of these artificial divisions. The ruling elite of Nigeria love to keep these divisions active because it pays them. Because while we are divided, they can continue to do their thing. And that means that these obstacles would have to, the work we have to do, to overcome them, is a long, running work because it's not going to disappear overnight. But the starting point is for us to constantly show to people that there's more that unites us as oppressed people than what actually divides us. And that's why, in all of our public messaging and also in terms of our behavior as activists, as thought leaders, as leaders of organizations, mass organizations and co, even the media, progressive media and co, we must ensure that we put all of these points out to people. Because it's very important, because when you look at it, the ruling elites do not, even though they mount these divisions, they do not allow these divisions to prevent them from doing what they have to do. So, interestingly, some of the worst thieves, some of the worst theft rather in this country, in terms of stealing of public funds, have actually been committed, by politicians from different ethnic groups working together, acting together.
Yeah.
The police and the EFCC that would also, take bribes and not arrest them is possibly from another ethnic group. The judge that is ready to give them, just any ruling to make them escape, the consequence of their action is possibly from another tribe. So these are examples we need to continue to pose to our people so that they can then realize that at the end of the day, there's more that unites us than divide us. But most importantly also is that when it comes to organizations like the trade unions are some of the best opportunities to demonstrate that the oppressed people are just one tribe, not different tribes. In the period when the trade unions were quite active, I hate to mention his name because he has become a turncoat right now, but you can't remove the fact that the period when the trade unions were active was the period when Oshiomhole led the trade unions in the first half of civil rule. And at that period, through the general strikes that the NSC and the TUC often called, general strikes that often succeeded across the length and breadth of this country, these were actions that helped to show to ordinary people that whether you are in Jalingo or I'm from Ogbomoso or you are from Anambra, that there's this thing that connects all of us. Because those strikes were often about either minimum wage or fuel price hike. But unfortunately, what has happened in the past period now is that labor doesn't fight on anything anymore. And I think that the period when insecurity has grown in this country coincides with the period when the labor movement lost this ability to bring Nigerians together to fight for a common purpose. I think so, because people also always need to see the big picture of what is happening. Labor at that time was like a central force that united everybody. And that made it clear that, this is what we've got to fight for. If we have to fight at all, these are the real battles that takes our society forward. Not seeing you as a problem, not seeing me as a problem.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the things to also say at this level is that the labor movement needs to, up its game. The labor leadership needs to start mobilizing Nigerians across board to begin to fight on the most important issues. If we get that done, you are also going to see that some of these divisions would come down. But most importantly is to build a political apparatus that can unite Nigerians across board for purpose of taking political power. And why do I say this? If you look at many of the political parties that you have in the country today, even though you could say that you could find Nigerians of different ethnic groups or religion in them, but because their politics is a self-serving politics of a personal aggrandizement, they don't act to unite people. They actually, succeed at disuniting people, because the process of wanting to steal now means that, somebody can then say that, oh, if I come to government, I want to put people from my own ethnic tribes alone in one ministry. And that's why if we have a new political party today that unites the people around a different paradigm of service, public service, of utilizing the wealth of the country to take care of the population of this country, that is going to act like the icing on the cake of completely, overcoming these artificial divisions that is, making our people, to see the next person as the enemy. If we can do all of this, we can overcome. But like I said, it's really a long process, but it is not hopeless. Because people also sometimes made the mistake to think that it's an hopeless venture. Some of the countries in the world where you have had revolutions in whatever form, are actually rather more complex than Nigeria. India, for instance, is more complex than Nigeria. I don't remember the figure, but India possibly has maybe over 5,000 or 10,000 castes. Russia, which had the revolution in 1917, socialist revolution, has more ethnicity than Nigeria. So, ethnic division, religious division is an obstacle. But it is not an obstacle that can prevent the process of change if we know how to work to overcome it. So that responsibility on all of us in that sense. And to do it also means that we need to put examples forward. And that's why even this protest around demolition offers a very good example of that. One of the things that people have asked me is that, Soweto, do you know anybody from Makoko? Interestingly, I came to Lagos maybe 10, 15 years ago. I've been hearing about Makoko. The only time I ever went to Makoko was on January 16 or thereabout.
This year.
And what did I go to do? I went to have a meeting with the people of Makoko to discuss the protest of January 28th. So that means that before January of this year, I never knew anybody from Makoko, never spoke to anybody from Makoko, but yet I threw myself into that. And there are many people like me, activists like me, who never knew anything about Makoko, but threw themselves into the struggle of Makoko. The Makoko people are shocked. Some of them even thought maybe we were doing it for something else. Maybe we were going to ask for money later on. Those bold examples needs to be replicated in 1,000 times, million times across the country. Because there are examples that shows that we are one human race. The oppressed people, we are one tribe. And regardless of where you are, once there's injustice anywhere, it's a threat to you. So I think that's the best way to begin to overcome all of that.
All right, now, so the youth listening, I'm a youth. Listening to you,
obviously,
is giving
you're
me
not old.
this feel that, okay, looks like something can be done. But there's a question of a revolution is coming, is like imminent, based on everything you said. But what do we have to do at this time as youth to, maybe prepare ourselves? Or how can we be part of the movement? Now, when you talked about activism, you mentioned something that seemed like the moment you get into that space, you need to be prepared to lose your life in the process, because it can be deadly, because the people you want to take power from do not want to leave it. So they when they see you are threatening them, and based on your experiences, you've seen a lot of activists fall in the journey of trying to, call and demand for better governance. Now, for the youth, how do you give them the feel that, put that aside, this is something you must do? Because in my understanding, I feel like it's something that must be done. But now there's a fear of, I don't want to die. I want to do it and, enjoy the benefit that comes from it as well. Nobody really wants to do something and be gone.
Like Hellah said, my people.
My people, they fear too much. They fear the things they don't see. So that situation of, okay, we want to do it, but what should we do? How can we be part of it?
How can we be involved?
And do we necessarily need to lose our lives in the process of trying to do it?
That's a real question.
Yeah, that's a very important question. But let me start from the beginning. Sometimes in 2007, I was a young undergraduate at the university, at the Obafemi Awolowo University. During a protest, I was arrested alongside with the PRO of the student union and the president of the student union, and then taken to court and then thrown into prison. So I spent 5 months in prison between 2007 to 2008.
5 months.
Yes. And while in prison, because prior to that time, I'd been suspended severally. I'd been arrested, beaten, threatened with a gun. But prison was a new experience. And it shook me. And I needed to, and I started asking myself some questions. Is it worth it? And what did I do? One thing I did was to go back to why I became an activist in the first place. I did not become an activist because it was a fancy thing to do. I was a very brilliant student, first class student.
Wow.
I could become anything. I could study law, I could do this, I could do that, I became an activist because I studied. And in studying the history of the world, the history of human society, I realized that there was something fundamentally wrong. So my search for knowledge of what was wrong and what could be the solution led me to a body of idea called Marxism. So I became a Marxist. Becoming a Marxist means that you realize that this world is not cursed. Africa is not cursed. Nigeria is not cursed. In fact, Nigeria has the resources to take care of 10 times of its current population. Why we're in the current situation we are in is because of a system called capitalism, which guarantees the profit and the wealth of a few people at the expense of the mass majority.
Yeah.
And the only way to correct that is to change that system and have a socialist system. But to do that means that you have to confront those who are benefiting from the system. So I became a Marxist. So while in prison, I had to go back to that Marxism. And in going back to it, I asked my friends to bring me my books. All of my library were brought back to the prison for me. And for 5 months, I was reading. That was all I was doing. And my study while in prison made me to be convinced that what I was going through at that time was inevitable. And I also became thankful after reading all of that I was going through that at that time of my life. I was maybe 23, 24 years old or thereabout. Because having that experience early meant that I was going through the crucible at the early stage and getting strengthened. So that nobody, no politician, no state can threaten me with prison.
Yeah, been there.
Later.
Done that.
I've been there, done. Because it's easier to bear this thing when you're still young, you have responsibility, than when you are old and the justice throw you into prison. So what do I mean? So where am I going with all of that? With that example? Is to show that courage, strength, they are not biological attributes. They are first and foremost ideological attributes. I mean, if you are religious, we call it spiritual. What I did while in prison, if you were a spiritual person, which would mean that you go to your Bible or your Quran to receive that motivation. But because I wasn't a spiritual person in that sense, I was an ideological person. So my books, ideological books, restored that faith in me. And that faith has not left me up to now. It's not just faith, but also optimism. And that's why when what happened on January 28th happened, I had no fear whatsoever. But I actually died there for a second when I was being pummeled, kicked by 7 giant police officers, including the commissioner of police. And where does the faith come from? It is that one, what we are fighting for is justified. And that if I fall, thousands, millions more will take up the fight, if not now, in the coming future. So, when you have that kind of ideological understanding, it gives you an extra faith and motivation that ordinary people just have ordinary courage cannot have. So, therefore, if I'm going to advise anybody today, young people, old people, workers, anybody, because being an activist isn't a profession. It isn't something that you are customized for. Everybody in a society like Nigeria, where the right to existence is not even guaranteed, or to be an activist. Because to be an activist, first and foremost, means that you have not lost your sense of justice. You have not become desensitized to suffering. How many people, you think that thousands of Lagosians did not know that Makoko was being demolished?
Yeah.
Everybody knew about it. Many people passing on Tubman Bridge were seeing the destruction going on. But how many people realized that those were human beings who have as much right to existence as all of us? In fact, the slums of Lagos, whether Ajegunle or Makoko, have produced some of the best people in this country. Yeah. Whether in sports, whether in music. Because the community, those communities, those are the places where the majority of all of us come from. So to be an activist is to say that you have not lost that your moral compass. You have not become inhuman. You still retain that humanity. That means that if something happens to somebody else, it pricks your conscience. It makes you want to talk and say no, even though you don't know that person at all. So, everybody ought to be an activist. But to remain an activist, despite adversity, despite challenges, means that you must have a coherent ideology that guides you. That guides what you are doing, and when you are also down, that can also motivate you. Because some of these internal battles can be very private. Nobody will know about it. Many of us many activists are depressed.
Right.
Because while you are fighting for others, your own responsibilities, you are not able to. And if you don't have the appropriate networks of support and co, it can be very devastating. But so, to be an activist is one thing. To be an activist means that you are activated by any social injustice. But to remain one, you must have an ideology. So for anybody who wants to be an activist, whether you are a youth or whatever, that's what I will first say. You must have an ideology. The ideology is a pathway towards the kind of society you want. And beyond having an ideology, you must also be organized. To be organized means that you are part of a movement. The movement also acts as a platform that strengthens you, that ensures that you are not alone. And that's why I don't believe in this notion of celebrity activists.
Celebrity?
Activists.
Oh, okay.
What I mean.
What you mean is someone being a celebrity and being an activist?
Somebody can be a celebrity and then become an activist, but there's no celebrity activism in that sense of the word. Because activism is never a one-man show. You know, everybody plays their role. Some people could be those who comes out to articulate, to talk about the issues, but there are tens of thousands of others who are doing the tactless job of designing the posters, visiting the communities, and all of that, organizing meetings and all of that. So you must be part of such a thing. Then the last point is that having an ideology also means that You are not just responsive or reactive. Oh, they have increased fuel price. Let's go out to the street. Having an ideology also means that we have a blueprint of what can work, how society can work better.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean when I say I'm a Marxist. Being a Marxist means that I believe that socialism is the only way to make this country work. And what that means, therefore, is that I'm prepared to do all it takes in terms of building the forces for a socialist Nigeria. And a socialist Nigeria, what does it mean? All it basically means is that the wealth of this country, whether petroleum, whether minerals, whether agriculture, these are all the wealth that belongs to this country. That belongs actually first and foremost to the Nigerian people. Right now, those wealths have been parceled out into the hands of a few people, whether corporations or individuals. Who own the oil blocks? It's not the Nigerian people. It is corporations and a few Nigerian politicians. Who owns all of the big telecommunication companies? Corporations. These are the wealth of the country. To have a socialist Nigeria means that this wealth needs to be put together, nationalized, and democratically controlled to ensure that everybody in this country, once you're a Nigerian citizen, your rights to existence must be guaranteed with those resources. Your right to shelter must be guaranteed with those resources. Your right to education to whatever level must be guaranteed with those resources. Your right to health care at any point in time must be guaranteed with those resources. And then, of course, your right to good road infrastructures, to electricity. Because those rights are the only way to ensure that regardless of the circumstances of your birth, regardless of your background, everybody who is a Nigerian has a level playing ground to become whoever they want to be, or to become nobody if they so wish. But right now, what do we have in a Catholic society? People are born, and right from birth, they have to begin, or their parents have to begin to struggle for what they will eat, shelter,
Health.
education, health, and even security.
Yeah, sadly.
But you are paying your taxes to government. The resources of this country belongs to you ordinarily, but you also pay taxes to their government. The government is not using it for anything at all. I mean, there's no democracy in that kind of arrangement. Because if government is not going to use our resources to take care of us, then perhaps there should be no government at all. Let everybody go and struggle and hustle for your own police to be protecting you. Hustle for your own road.
Also for your own water.
We are all hustling for our own water already.
Lights.
We are hustling for our own light already. So why do you have a government that claims that is taking care of all of us and then sits and takes custody on all of our works? Everything you do now, whether you're a businessman, you own a radio station, you hold this podcast, whatever, you pay certain sum of money through direct or indirect tax to the government for owning this business. But the government does not provide road for you, does not provide electricity for you,
No housing.
does not provide security for you.
No.
It keeps taking from you. That is the kind of society we have today. What a socialist society ensures is that first and foremost, the wealth of the country is utilized to make the country livable for everyone. Now, whatever you then become through that is your own. The second thing about socialism is that it guarantees full democracy. The democracy we talk about in Nigeria today, just as in the entire world, what does it mean? It means that once in 4 years, come and queue in the sun to cast your vote. That is what the democracy is all about. For the next 4 years, whatever happens in terms of government policy, they don't care about you, they don't consult you. Who did Lagos State government consult before they went to demolish Makoko? They didn't even consult the Makoko people. When they wanted to remove fuel subsidy, who did they consult? I mean, these are policies that threw all of our own lives upside down.
Yeah,
Whose
so
life was not
it
upended by
affected
subsidy
everyone.
removal.
They affect everyone.
Yeah.
Every government policy is
So, this electoral reform now, who did they consult before they decided whether you are going to allow manual voting or not manual voting? So, what that means, therefore, is that democracy under capitalism is just for show once in 4 years. Under a socialist system, what democracy means is that everybody must be involved in policies of government that is going to affect their lives. So what that means, therefore, is that at every unit of social existence, whether you are a worker, whether you are a youth, whether you are a student, whether you are living in the communities, those spaces must organize themselves to constantly intervene and bring up their opinion about every government policy. Government that is also in power must often consult those democratic spaces at all times to get citizens' feedback regarding whatever government policies that is going to be, instituted. That is what real genuine democracy ought to be. And that is what socialism is all about. That is the ideology that I stand for. And that is my own blueprint for a society, for a Nigeria that works. And that's why when I started introducing myself, I said, I'm an activist, a socialist, and a revolutionary. And I would like to invite everybody who wants to be an activist in Nigeria today to also combine it with being a revolutionary and also being a socialist. But what that means, therefore, is that we're not just reacting to government policies, but we are also prepared, to put ourselves forward at the right time, to make Nigeria work for us, because we already have a blueprint in our head because of the ideology that we embrace as to how a country, should be organized.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So let's talk January 28th, and I understand that must be very traumatizing. But what is it about a peaceful protest that incites violence from bodies or institutions that are supposed to protect you, aka the Nigerian police?
Yeah, it's because protest is first and foremost it's a recognition that the normal process for relationship between the people, the governed, and the governing bodies has broken down or does not work. So in that sense, protest is like it's like a vote of no confidence. Because according to the normal plan of capitalist democracy, if citizens wish to comment, criticize, or reject any policy of government, you are meant to go through your lawmakers, right? And then through that is communicated to the governing power. So when citizens decide to come out of the street, it is a subtle way of saying that no governmental authority, including lawmakers, are trusted anymore. So we got to do it our own. We got to express our views by ourselves. And that frightens those in power because they also recognize that message. And that is why the responses to protests, even when they are peaceful, it's always one of either violence or threat of violence by those in power. And I'll give you an example that is easily relatable. The Ember governors protest in 2024. It was a protest that was announced ahead of time. I'm not sure there's any protest anywhere in the world that there will be like a 1 month notice.
Yeah, I remember in 2024.
And for that 1 month, it was as if both at the national or state level, government and politicians suspended their real work. It was every day commenting on that protest, whether it's army, whether police, whether politicians, lawmakers. And what were the messages? Everything they were saying was to either threaten people or ask people not to protest or say that if you protest, something would happen. Eventually, the protest took place. So that's an example of how protest frightens. Then the other thing is that especially for a government that is unpopular, whose policies are unpopular.
Yeah.
Protest also frightens those in power because those in power realizes that once the people are out, then anything can happen. So, what that means therefore is that the first mindset of those in power is that a protest should not be allowed to take place. When you bring that point down to the case of Makoko and the protest of January 28th, you will see that the first reaction of the Commissioner of Police in Lagos State, his body language clearly was that that protest will not be allowed. In fact, a day before the protest, we sent somebody down to the Commissioner of Police office to give him a letter notifying him about the protest, as the law asked us to do. For the first time in the history of relationship between civic groups and police in Lagos State, a commissioner of police rejected a letter notifying him of a protest coming up the next day. He rejected it. Don't forget, and I'm saying this, and I want Nigerians to understand the significance of what I'm saying. Prior to now, the complaints of police, sometimes when they have to be violent towards protesters, is that protesters did not even inform them.
Yeah.
That used to be the sing-song that they ought to be informed now so that they can prepare and know and all of that. But this time around, you were notified. And you on your own refused to be notified. You rejected that notification. And it wasn't surprising. Even though it was a bit surprising, but it wasn't also. Because the issue around that protest was a big issue.
Yeah.
It's an issue of calculated theft of people's land and homes by the ruling elite of Lagos State. Why do I call it calculated theft? If you have noticed over the past few years in Lagos State, you will see that there's a scramble for land. Property prices are going up, rent prices are going up, and there's a scramble for land. Lagos is a state, a geographical area that is with a very small, narrow land size. But the elite in Lagos State, their source of wealth is not to be found in industry or in investment. If you go back to the history of the elite of Lagos State, either the political elite or even the elite in terms of the royal houses and all of that, their source of wealth primarily is land. And land has ceased to exist. There's hardly any virgin land in Lagos State anymore to sell. So over the past 10, 20 years now, what many of these land grabbers are selling are lands that have already been bought 20, 30, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's why you have land grabbers who go and seize that land, connive with some people in the Lagos State ministries and all of that to do newspapers and all of that and resell it. And with the development of a co-Atlantic city, waterfront lands have become quite very pricey.
Yes.
And very profitable.
Profitable.
So what that means now is that any small community or settlement around the waterfront, these land grabbers see it as something that have to be seized. And that was what made the Makoko issue to get to the turning point it got to in December and January this year.
Yeah.
It's not the first time they have been talking about demolishing Makoko. But the greed of the ruling elites are gotten to an insatiable point that they see no other alternative right now other than seizing that land. Because every other land in Lagos State had already been saturated. And in seizing that land, they are not seizing it on their own behalf alone. Almost many of the key politicians you know in Lagos State are going to benefit from it. And to tell you what is even very interesting about the whole matter is that the demolition that started in Makoko in December last year started in contravention of a plan between the United Nations and Lagos State government over 5 years ago to regenerate Makoko. And by regeneration, it means that the people of Makoko will not lose their lands at all, their homes at all, rather. But rather, the place was going to be developed while being inclusive of them, ensuring that their ancestral fishing job and way of life is not affected. That is what they call the water city, which interestingly Lagos State government has started talking about now since the January 28th protest. That water city had been in the pipeline over 5 years ago. The United Nations was supposed to give counterpart funding to the Lagos State government. But the government turned its back on that plan in favor of a more juicy approach, which is that they lease the land, a concession, the word is concession, to a real estate company called FBT Cora, which wanted to turn their Makoko to an estate with high-rise buildings, luxurious homes, and all of that, while wiping off the current inhabitant. And the entire Makoko, the landed area, had been divided up. The places where the people built their houses on the water, on wooden, constructed homes. The plan was to sand fill all of those places.
You mean the government's plan or the people's plan?
The FBT Cora, alongside with the Lagos State government.
Okay.
But the FBT Cora is not acting alone.
Yes, of course.
Was to sand fill it so that they can build, you know what they build on the waterfront now?
Luxurious
homes and all of that. And then part of the plan also was to divide the place into plots to be given out to different people, including politicians and all of that. So all of them were going to benefit from it. Because the previous plan with the United Nations was a pro-people plan that was going to mean that, yes, that area will be developed with good sanitation system, and all of that, but without displacing the original inhabitants. So it was only the protest of January 28th that exposed that criminality. And that was why the attitude and the body language and the response of the Commissioner of Police was that violent. Because our protest on January 28th was going to expose something that had been hidden, a crime they were committed in the dark. They started the demolitions December 23rd. There's a reason they started it around that period. They know that's a period when people are consumed by the Yuletide and the celebrations and the holidays and are not able to pay attention to seriousness.
Yes.
So the idea was that by the time we start returning to the matter early this year, they would have completely leveled the whole place. So that when we said wanted to have the protest, they knew that if they allowed it, that was going. In fact, when the Makoko people woke up on the morning of the protest, around CCM, they saw police vans surrounding the entire community. The plan of the CP was to start shelling them in Makoko, because the idea was that our plan was that the community would mobilize with buses down to Ikeja under bridge.
Okay.
So that from Ikeja under bridge, the protests would take off. The plan was to start shelling them right from there. It took the intervention of Comrade Femi Falana, senior advocate of Nigeria, who called the Commissioner of Police that early morning and told him that there's the right to protest is not something that can be suppressed in this country. And that people have a right to protest. They are not doing anything wrong. It should allow us to have together. That was what made the CP to grudgingly even allow people from Awoko to get to the protest ground. But by the time they got to the protest ground, it was another thing entirely. At least on 3 occasions, before we even got to Alausa, the police tried to stop the protest. Different excuses. The first excuse was that we must not allow children to be on the protest. And how did children get to the protest? You demolish their homes. Their parents have no homes anymore. They've been staying and sleeping inside canoes since December. So when the parents wanted to come for the protest, there was nowhere to put their children. You had also demolished their schools. So they had to bring their children, even like infants, babies. Some mothers brought them. Because there was nowhere.
Now, I have a question. Sorry, Mr. Soweto, to cut you short. I'm so sorry about that. The government did all of this, or is doing all of this. Are there plans made for these people? I'm talking about the people now. It's not really are there plans in place for them? Okay, you guys need to leave this place for a certain reason. They said it was for a risk that the place wasn't safe enough, according to media reports. So if they are leaving, these people are not... Makoko is like the biggest slum in the entire Africa, if not the world. If they are leaving here, where are they leaving to? Where are the people now? Where do they expect them to be leaving? Is there a record of where they moved them or anything?
So zero consideration.
They made no provision. In fact, the demolition was surreptitious. Because if they even told them right from the word go that they want to remove them completely, maybe the people on their own would have started making their own alternative provision. When the first bulldozers got there in December last year, what they said what they wanted to come and do was to remove houses constructed under a power line.
Yeah. I saw that news.
When they said that the community agreed with them that yes, they can come and remove the houses under the power line. So they said 30 meters to the power line, every structure there will be. And the community considered. That was how the bulldozers were allowed into Makoko. It wasn't to demolish houses. It was to remove buildings under the 30-meter radius around the power line. It's like government saying that, there's a fence constructed under a power line, and they want to remove it, and you agree with them. And then by the time the bulldozers get there, you realize that they are removing your old house. They are removing your neighbor's house. Before you know, your entire street, they are removing. That was what happened in Makoko. So they made no provision whatsoever. Something which is it's an international crime. Because when it comes to urban development, urban renewal, there are international guidelines and statutes guiding all of these things.
Right.
The operative word is that you must not cause displacement of people. But that does not mean that if development requires removal, if development requires resettlement, that you cannot do it. If you want to construct a road here now, it means that this house has to leave.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what the law says is that you must provide alternatives to those who are going to be affected.
Exactly.
The Lagos State government made no provision. That's why you see them now starting to engage in negotiation with the community after the January 28th protest. So that was what really made them very uncomfortable with that protest. But despite their effort to try and stop the protest, we kept moving. And of course, by the time we got to the Alausa, they already, as far as the CP was concerned, we could no more move beyond that. And that was why it unleashed violence. There is a video which I can share with you.
Please do.
Which was the last speech I made before the police shot tear gas and then grabbed me. In fact, the whole idea of shooting the tear gas and dispersing protesters was to grab me. That was the whole point of it. Because they had already positioned themselves around me, prepared to grabbing me. before they fired the tear gas. And what was the last speech I made? Because we had no reason to be afraid of the police. So we were close to them. And to address the protesters, I had to back them. Somebody carried me on their neck. And I addressed protesters. And what did I say? I said that we had already made our point clear to the police that we will wish to be attended to in the designated portion inside the House of Assembly complex. And they are conferring among themselves about that demand. We are going to give them some minutes to discuss that. In the meantime, protesters should sit down on the floor, on the ground. Because we want to start sharing refreshments, gala and pure water. So that people can sit, they can drink, eat, and restore their energy. These are people, a lot of elderly people were on that protest who had marched all the way from Ikeja on that bridge to Alhausa. And as soon as I said that, people started complying, sitting down. So they then I got down from that person's neck. I was still backing the police and handed over the microphone to another organizer. That was how mayhem started. So they shot the tear gas. I only had a fraction of the sound of the tear gas before I was grabbed. And as I was grabbed, 3 young men tried to rescue me. So they held my hand, while the police, about 3 of them, held my waist. And so there was a tug of war going on for about a minute, while every other person were running. But I gauged the situation and realized that if those boys continue to try to save me, then they could also end up being arrested. So I told them to just let me go. Because we have no reason to be afraid of arrest. I had no inkling that the plan was not even to arrest me. The plan was to injure me or possibly kill me. And maybe if I knew that before, I would not have discouraged those young men, from trying to save me. Because arrest is constitutional. If you feel that there's a need for me to be arrested, you can arrest me. I know that I've not committed any crime, so let's go there. So as soon as they released me, those young men, and they started running away, I raised up my hand and then turned towards the police, who then held me by the collar and started dragging me to the assembly complex. We got to the assembly complex. They took me behind the security post. If you know the assembly complex, where the gates, you know that there's a gatehouse or security post. They took me behind. They asked me to lie down. I complied. I lay down on the floor. And then about 7 heavy police officers, FT men, started kicking me. And as I was trying to protect my head, which meant that I was constantly switching my head from one side to the other, that's when I cited the commissioner of police that was part of them. As soon as he saw that I could see him, he has his mind to blindfold me. And those ones just tore my shirt and used it to blindfold me. To blindfold me, they carried me up. And then they blindfolded me. Then my 2 arms, they curved my 2 hands, curved them to the back. And then they put me down on the floor. So this time around, I could not even shake my head or protect wherever the blow would land on my body, because I was motionless. And another round of beating started. At a point, I blacked out because somebody hit me so viciously at the back of my head, and I just blacked out. And then another person kicked me on the rib, which was what now revived me.
Wow.
I mean, my MRI scan shows that I have what they call lumbar paraspinal muscle spasm, which means that my lower back is been injured. And that's why I've been undergoing physiotherapy now. Like right now, I'm beginning to get better. Otherwise, a week ago, I would not be able to sit down this long before feeling really very uncomfortable. But it's still a long process to gaining, full health. But that is to show the extent of the brutalization that I suffered, which did not stop there. Because by the time we then got to Panti police station, there were other dramas, that also ensued, some which I've told in different ways to people. But the major thing that happened at party, to summarize it, was that I affirmed, my right under the law, to have access to my lawyer before I would write any statement. Something which was denied me. And then because they denied me that, I refused to comply and to write a statement. So that the case they say they have against me now, because they have taken me to court, is a case they have built up without any statement whatsoever written by my person. Because they refused to even allow me to call my lawyer, which is what the law says. When you arrest someone, you must give them access to either call their lawyer or their family. In fact, nobody should write a statement. And I'm saying this clearly, to people, so that if you ever find yourself arrested for whatever by the police, whether for traffic offense or for anything, or even normal reading, don't go there and you start writing statements, without your lawyer being present. The law is quite clear. The constitution is quite clear that once you are arrested by the police, the police must allow you to call your lawyer, but your statement can only be taken in the presence, of a legal counsel, either of your own choosing or the one that they provide for you. So this idea of just arresting people and the police will even help them to write statements.
Yeah, I'll tell you what to write.
I'll tell you what to write. These are just criminal, assault on people's rights. It's very illegal, and they do this all the time. And the court also, does not mind. But I have found my right. Something which also now meant that they further now brutalized me because of that. But I didn't mind because I was clear that, at that point, the only thing I could do, even at the risk of losing my life, is to continue to affirm that I have a right to certain things, and if you don't give me, I'm not going to comply. Well, the long and short is that the case is in court now. The next trial date is the 11th of March, 2025, which is next month, 2026 rather. But the truth of it is that the state does not have any case against me, any serious case against me. Every charges they have in that case borders on Section 35 and 36 of the Constitution, which is about, the right to freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. The police cannot, create its own law when it comes to, protest. The Constitution is quite clear that Nigerians have that right, and that's the right that we expressed. So that as far as I'm concerned, I'm not losing sleep on that trial. What I'm much more interested in is how to ensure that the Commissioner of Police, is appropriately punished, for what he has done to me and other protesters. Because apart from myself, who was seriously brutalized, at least 2 protesters were hospitalized following that very brutal dispersal of the protest. One female protester, tear gas canister directly hit her on her leg. She spent 7 days at Lasut before she was discharged. She's been going back there for dressing of the wound since then. And we are still waiting for when Lasut will then tell us when to go and do skin surgery, what do you call it now? Skin graft surgery. Because the wound is quite very, very gaping. So these are people who are paying the price now for that protest. But like I'm saying, the CP cannot escape, the public accountability for what has happened. And that's why I'm in the final process of actually filing a fundamental right action suit in court against him, which means that I'm suing him. I'm suing all of his men who are involved in this. And this is not the first time I've been suing the police for something like this. July 24 last year, I actually won, a similar suit against the police for what they did also against us for a protest that we led on October 20, 2024. And on July 24 last year, the Federal High Court ruled, that the police were wrong and that the police should pay us 10 million naira. So the Nigerian police actually owing me a sum of 10 million naira right now. And I'm very hopeful that by the time we finish with this case, they will be owing me more. And today, it also came to light that the police are also owing Showore 30 million naira, because at the Federal High Court in Lagos State today, the judge also ruled against the same commissioner of police who declared Showore wanted, if you remember, during the protests in Woronshoki, against the demolition for Woronshoki, sometimes in November last year. The Commissioner of Police declared Showore wanted, something which he has no right under the law to do. A policeman cannot just wake up, whether you are the IGP or CP, and declare Nigerian wanted without a court of law, saying so, or without even an investigation, which would say that he has committed a crime. So that was what they went to court to go and interpret, and the court interpreted it very clearly today, that the police was wrong, and that the police must pay Showore 30 million. So that further, gives me hope that, by the time we go to court again on this matter, then the police will just be owing us a whole lot of money. But it's not just about the money.
Yeah.
Course. Really, it's about ensuring that every facility we have, available to us, we must utilize them to stop these people in their track. To make them know that we will not give up. Because it's very important. It looks like when I talk like this, it looks like maybe I don't value my own life, because you can imagine what it is now. It means that with what has happened now with the Commissioner of Police, with the January 28th protest, I must ensure that I don't even commit any traffic offense in Lagos State, because anything that makes me, to have any encounter with any police, could actually be devastating, because, I'm already a target. I'm already a target in that sense. So many Nigerians will think that, this is not a battle we should even want to fight, given how devilish these people can be. And that's why, again, I said earlier on that to be an activist in today's Nigeria, like you asked, means that you must be prepared to die. That does not mean, and I do not by any means, mean that, as activists we are duty bound to just die recklessly. No, I don't mean that. I love life. I've got family, very beautiful family, But what I mean by that is that what they actually have over all of us, which keeps us, how do I put it, peaceful and not resisting oppression, is our own mind and our own fears. They know we are afraid of losing our lives. We are afraid of losing our liberty. So they utilize all of these things to make us, so that even before you go out there, you think twice. So when I say that to be an activist, you have to be ready to die, what I mean is that to be an activist, you have to lose all of these fears. You have to lose your fears of incarceration. You have to lose your fears of death. And once you lose those fears, then they have got nothing over you. That allows you to be able to dare, to be able to challenge. So I just thought that I should make that clear. That does not mean that to be an activist means to die. But again, the long and short of it all is that this challenge that we are putting up, they are very important because they also send a clear message to these people that Nigerians are not going to give up. And when the oppressors knows this, that also means that instead of us being afraid, they are the ones that will now begin to be afraid. And once that happens, then the revolution is already at the door.
Why do I feel like giving a round of applause?
Well said. It's impressive, and at the same time, a lot convincing.
Impressive.
Yeah, it is convincing. I mean, like I've said it like twice already. So this is like something that has given hope to not just me, I believe, to Kimmy and to our audience there. But sadly, I would have really loved to ask more questions, but we have to wrap.
I think it's never ending questions.
It never ends.
There's so many questions to be asked, but I think it's been a fantastic conversation so far. We've touched on so many areas. What us as Nigerian youths, what we can do. Identify our struggles, our challenges, and most importantly, you gave us hope.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm living here with hope.
Yeah.
You're
hope.
living here with hope.
There's hope.
Yeah.
That, our future
Nigeria
is in our hands.
Yeah.
And they can't keep, oppressing us forever.
Yeah, the oppressed are way more than the
something's
oppressors.
got to give.
So
Something's got to give.
Yeah.
And it's so I don't know how I felt listening to you recount that very traumatic event. I want justice. I'm angry. I want justice for you. I want justice for the... Because I was not even going to ask, what's even the future of the Makoko community?
Yeah, that's
it's
why
painful.
I asked the question about, displacing them like that.
Yeah, it's
without
very
any
painful. But I think these are conversations that we can
settlements.
keep having, on social media.
Yeah.
You can send us, a message. You can respond to us in the comment sections. And, let's keep talking and advocating for Nigeria.
Yeah, so basically, guys, this conversation doesn't end here. It's not just about Soweto. It's not about Talk District. It's about you and I as Nigerians. Even in diaspora, the conversation never ends because this is a matter that concerns everybody. Today or recently was Makoko. It could be your own place of residence tomorrow. What are you going to do about it? Do you want to wait until that time before you make a move? You need to make a move now. So, guys, like we always say, the conversation never stops. We bring in big, real people, real vibe, real talk, conversations that some people are probably scared to have. We have them here on Talk the Street with me, Clemz for short, and Kimmy K. And a big thanks to our guest, Soweto. So before we wrap it up,
I wanna shout out our sponsors because it's very important to shout out our sponsors. So this episode is sponsored by BO Foundation for Inclusive Media, and the message is this: gender equality and social inclusion is not for a specific group of people. It is for everyone. Leave no one behind in all your programming and engagement. Yeah. Also, we got a gift for you to say thank you.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. To say thank you for being on the podcast. Wow. And so you remember us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I was looking forward to this conversation. So I'm really glad you're here. And this is
we really appreciate your time. And we hope that you heal mentally, physically, financially.
Yes, that one too. And we hope you get the strength. You said you're not all that religious, but I'm just going to say I hope God gives you the strength that you need to keep fighting. Because you're not fighting for just yourself.
Let me be cliche. We need more people like you.
Yeah, we really do.
We do.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I think we need to take the baton somewhere.
The what?
The baton. We need to
Yes, that would be nice.
I mean, that's why we're here.
Of course.
That's why we're here.
So, guys.
Thank you so much.
Subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe, like, comment, share on your socials.
We
TikTok,
love you.
Instagram, everywhere. This is Talk District, where we have real people, real vibe, real conversations. Thank you so much, guys, for catching up. Stay tuned. Watch out for the next episode after this one. Bye-bye.